today. You'll be glad you did.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. On Groundhog Day, he's emerged from his burrow over at the Indiana County Courthouse. He is Indiana County District Attorney Bob Manzi joining us this morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you this morning?
Wonderful. Conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. That's quite the hubbub up there, isn't it?
That's quite the hubbub. Now, if it was my call, we'd go right into summertime tomorrow. But
we would never have come anywhere near winter, but then that would mean we're not living here.
That's right.
But we are living here, and we've got all of the same issues that everybody else everywhere has, and especially in terms of law enforcement. There are people out there that we need protecting from, and there are people out there who need protection. And the law enforcement community can help with that. And I want to visit both of those topics today. Start first with the idea of protecting us from some people who are intent on doing harm. And in this case, young people, child abuse and child sexual abuse continues to be a problem everywhere, and that includes here in Indiana County.
That is correct. And it is, as you said, it is not an Indiana County problem. It is a worldwide problem. My office is actually has a human trafficking task force that we've had now for the last 2 years. And one of the issues that we're dealing with is child abuse and child sex abuse. But even more local is trying to protect children from sexual abuse by family members, relatives, friends of the family. Just recently, we had a case of defendant Eric Schrack, who pled guilty to sexually assaulting a young victim. He'll spend the next 10 to 20 years in state prison. And the reason that he's going to do that is we had a victim in that case that was incredibly strong and incredibly bold and ready to stand up to him. And, you know, that victim reported it to the Pennsylvania State Police. Trooper Dern of the State Police did an excellent investigation. We were able to bring that case to a conviction and a sentence and have that individual serve the next 10 and hopefully 20 years in state prison. Not every case ends that way.
Yeah. One of the interesting things to me about it all is that frequently the victim in these cases has mental challenges, mentally disabled in some way or another. And you mentioned that in this case, there was a witness, the victim, who was able to be a strong witness against the person who had done this to them. It's not always going to be the case, especially when you have someone who is challenged in such a way.
That is correct. You know, first and foremost, most of the times the perpetrators in this case are not people unknown to the victims. The victims, 90% of the time plus, know who the perpetrators are. They're members of their family. They're friends of the family. They're in some sort of activity they go to, whether that be a sporting activity or a community activity. So when parents are looking out to protect their children, we need to be looking at it as who's closest to the children, who has access to the children, because those are the folks who are more likely to victimize the children. And as you said, the victims in these matters tend to be children who might have some issues that they're facing. And the perpetrators are picking those children on purpose. They're believing that they're more vulnerable. They can corner those children easier. If those children were to come out and tell another adult what happened in the crime, they may not believe them because maybe they've lied in the past. So we need to protect those really vulnerable kids, and especially from people who may be around them more often.
Frequently, when we have investigations that begin to unfold, more crimes become known than the original accusation. We had one of those cases recently where multiple images of child pornography found on a computer that would not have been found had there not been an investigation into actual abuse.
That's correct. That investigation started with the accusation of abuse, turned into the Pennsylvania State Police doing a search warrant on some computers, and then finding child pornography. And again, that's a situation where that person seems to be picked because there were some vulnerabilities. So what we need to do is we need to keep those open lines of communication with our children, with our neighbors' kids, with the kids that we're looking out for, because having eyes on them and listening to them, we may be able to stop some of those crimes from happening. If the perpetrators see that This children has a lot of really good support systems in their life and their family and their family's friends, and everyone's looking out for those kids. They're less likely to target those children because there's a higher likelihood they would be caught.
Now, we have a system in place here to help those victims, particularly child victims. Is it an adequate system? Are we able to protect them when they come forward from further harm, emotional harm, and mental difficulties that they might encounter because of what they've come forward with, and having to go through a trial process now? Are we able to protect them?
I believe we are. We have a lot of different programs in place and systems in place. We have victim services through the Alice Paul House that does an excellent job. We have our county's children and youth services. We have the Care Center of Indiana, my office, law enforcement. We have a great deal of services in place that are able to help those children through the process. And part of that process sometimes means that the case does not proceed to a trial because that child, it would do more harm for that child to testify and have to face that person. Mm-hmm. And we try to find some middle ground to hold that person accountable and protect that child. So, obviously our goal is we don't want to cause more trauma in the child as they're going through the process, but we certainly want to make sure that that individual is held accountable and put on Megan's Law or has some sort of conviction on the record so we can identify who it is and protect further victims.
Can be a very difficult line to walk. One of the other things that we want to visit this morning, another topic, is the idea of protections for some vulnerable citizens. And we've been talking about from people who might intend to harm them. And it really is the same topic, just turned around and looked at from a different perspective. And in this case, we're talking seniors and some of the potential problems that they might have. You actually have an event that you have scheduled for a couple of months from now that's going to be focused on seniors.
We do. So the Elder Abuse Task Force, which is comprised of my office and law enforcement, banks, a lot of community members, are organizing a senior summit. It's going to be held tentatively on May 11th in Indiana. We just need to firm up our location. And what we're going to be doing is bringing in law enforcement. We're going to be bringing in members from the State Department of Banking in their fraud unit, my office, local attorneys to provide information to seniors with regards to frauds and legal documents that can protect them, scams they should be looking out for. We're looking to do it in 2 separate events. With the coronavirus, we want to make sure that we keep our numbers low so we can spread out and adequately protect everyone. But we want to get back to providing that information in an in-person setting. And this is going to complement my office is going out to all of the senior centers in Indiana County at least twice a year. We're going to at least 1 or 2 each month to individually meet with seniors in that community to provide that same information in an outreach format.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic because there are so many different people coming at seniors in particular from so many different angles, and it can overwhelm them, and particularly if they're a little bit compromised in their mental abilities, where they're not the same as they used to be, not able to spot things as well as they once could. They run a really, really high risk of becoming a victim.
They do, and a lot of times whenever we see these scams or these various fraud events going on, what these scamsters try to do is create an emergency situation, something where a person's told, hey, you really don't have time to think about this, a loved one's in peril, you need to make that decision now. Mm-hmm. People want to help people. They want to help their family members typically. So, by creating that emergency situation, the idea is we don't want that senior to go ask somebody in their senior center or somebody in their family, hey, is this legitimate or not? So I always tell people that's one of the biggest red flags they should see. If something's being presented to you as an emergency situation, if you don't give me this money, these gift cards, this finance, very quickly something bad will happen, it's a scam.
Yeah. The most recent of those was revealed last week, where it turned out that targeting Western Pennsylvania and particularly people in the 724 area code, so we assume here in Indiana County as well as others, there were people who were scanning social media, finding out where people were visiting the southwestern United States, and then were calling their relatives and the 724 area code and saying they're in trouble in Mexico and we need help right now. You need to help them right now. We need your bank account information.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly the situation that a scamster will do. They look for that information. They try to create an emergency situation in which somebody says, oh, my gosh, I have to help my family, my loved ones very quickly. And what I always say is if it's that emergency situation, it's probably a scam. Ask them for a callback number. Ask them who they are. If they say they're the New Mexico Police Department, you can easily find their number and say, okay, I'll call you right back on that number. Mm-hmm. And you'll find that it's just a scam. But unfortunately, these thieves, they'll target 100 people, and anybody that they get to fall for it, that money's just gone. And they don't care if they miss 99 of you. If they get one, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, like a burglar who's trying homes in a neighborhood, if he finds one unlocked door that he's able to get a foot in, these people are going to do that in an electronic form by getting into somebody's accounts whatever way they possibly can. And we had this great story out of, I believe it was the state of New York, I'm not sure, last week, where somebody turned it around on them, got their law enforcement involved, and they set up a sting operation. That's generally a TV show type of thing. That's not real life. And so what you're doing here coming up in May is going to be extremely important, and then moving forward with ongoing events.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We want to get into the communities. Over the last couple months, we've been to a couple of the senior centers already. We're scheduled throughout 2022 to visit senior centers across the county. We're going to keep doing that. Myself, law enforcement, and members of the task force to provide that information. And this May event is really a goal is to really get some big outreach, have some people in person, and some very valuable information on how to protect yourselves from being scammed, how to protect others. And one of the things is we want to get people talking about it. We always say to seniors, if you hear of a scam, don't be embarrassed by it. Don't just not speak about it, but by you speaking about it more and letting your friends and family know what's going on, you might be protecting your neighbor from being a victim of the same scam you were able to detect.
Yeah, absolutely. He is Indiana County District Attorney Bob Manzi. He's got all the resources you need for handling whatever your difficulty might be. You just need to contact the office, and I'm sure on your Facebook page you keep folks up to date there too.
Absolutely. Go through my Facebook page. We take messages through there. You can call my office anytime.
Thanks so much for coming in this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I always appreciate it.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM and AM 1160. Fox News is coming up next at the top of the hour. It is Heart Month here in February, and we begin our series of Wednesday visits with the folks from IRMC to guard your heart health.